Kicking off NFL Live with breaking news out of Indy. Adam Schefter, what more can you tell us?
Phil, the Indianapolis Colts have made a decision about their starting quarterback, and they are going with Daniel Jones, the man they signed to a contract during the offseason that they paid $14 million to during the offseason. You heard over the weekend the Colts head coach Shane Steichen say he was looking for somebody who could command the huddle, take charge, get guys in the right position, and he clearly felt Daniel Jones was the quarterback to choose over Anthony Richardson, so much so that Shane Steichen even said that this is not a short-term trial basis type of decision. He is planning for Daniel Jones to be the Colts QB1 for the rest of the season. Now, we'll see if Jones can play well enough to hold him to that, but that is the plan, that Daniel Jones will be the Colts starting quarterback in all of 2025.
And Chris Ballard leaned into the word competition at the Combine. Looking at the preseason in a vacuum, the Colts were a better offense with Daniel Jones on the field. Indy averaged 6.3 yards per play and 44 snaps with Jones under center. Compare that to 4.7 and 26 snaps with Anthony Richardson, though his turn was abbreviated by a dislocated finger. Head coach Shane Steichen spoke today about the choice.
You guys heard me talk about the consistency, and that's really what I was looking for. And really the operation at the line of scrimmage, the checks, the protection. Daniel did a great job doing that, and I think AR has made strides in that area. But I do feel that, he still needs to continue to develop. He knows that he still needs to develop and learn in those areas, and he knows that he's one play away.
You just got to respect the decision. I feel like he's a better fit for the team, better fit for the outcome of us winning. So you just got to respect it and just keep working. That doesn't undermine any other work I've been putting in. Doesn't say that I haven't improved. I'm proud of the improvement I've made. Shane is also proud of that. So you just got to keep stacking on that and just keep getting better.
Obviously, a big piece of why I came here and to play, to be on the field, and to be with this group. I think it's a strong group of players, as I said, and a strong group of coaches. The system. I think there's a lot of things here to be excited about. So, I'm certainly happy I made the decision I did.
We've already heard from Adam Schefter, Sam Acho, Mike Tannenbaum, with me, Phil Murphy, here for the hour. Mike, the Indiana Jones marketing campaign is officially a go. You're a former GM. What's your reaction to the Colts going in this direction for week one?
I think they made a mistake. When they drafted Anthony Richardson, Phil, they knew that he only had 13 career starts. He's only had 15 so far in the pro level. And by comparison, you look at some recent quarterbacks like Bryce Young, 27 starts, Caleb Williams, 33, Cam Ward, 57 this year. He is a work in progress. So to me, they have some nice weapons now when you think about Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, drafter Tyler Warren. But to me, if you're going to draft Anthony Richardson with all that ability, all that upside, it's not going to happen overnight. And to me, Daniel Jones, we know what he is. He's a competent quarterback, but he has struggled with turnovers. He's struggled with sacks. He's only completed one season in his career. I would go with the younger player who has much more upside.
Yeah, the difference, though, is that this was a competition, and Anthony Richardson did not win the competition. I'd argue that Daniel Jones didn't win it either. He just didn't lose it. I don't think this was a far and away win by Daniel Jones, but the coaches are saying, who do we trust more? And going back to even just that broken pinky play, right, where Anthony Richardson wasn't able to adjust to the blitz and take that sack, it was not a lot of trust that is being put forward for Anthony Richardson. Both Richardson and Jones looked inconsistent for a majority of the preseason. There were some flashes where they looked good, but neither looked consistent. Neither inspired too much confidence. Now, I will say this. The lesser turnovers when it comes to Anthony Richardson, when it comes to Daniel Jones, so I think that's why he's able to earn this spot.
Mike, you touched on it a minute ago. It's not terribly common for a team to move on not just from a first-round pick, a top-5 pick so quickly. Anthony Richardson's 23. He's younger than Bo Nix, Michael Penix, down the line, Caleb Williams. Do you think his time in Indy is over?
Not necessarily. Again, Daniel Jones has had trouble with durability himself, as Coach Steichen alluded to. So he has to be mentally ready to go because he is one snap away. And look, when somebody is that young and that experienced and so talented, I would be extremely reticent if I was Indianapolis to give up on him. We could look at Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, a recent sort of examples of quarterbacks that have been at 4 different teams until they sort of hit their potential.
And Mike, you bring up Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, 3 quarterbacks who once were high picks, who went on to become the type of quarterbacks that many expected. I think that's what the Colts are expecting right now with Daniel Jones, and it's certainly possible that Anthony Richardson will have that opportunity in the future. And the question is whether it'll be in Indianapolis, because after this season, the Colts are going to have to make a decision about whether or not to pick up the 5th-year option in Anthony Richardson's 2027 season, which would be the 5th year of his rookie contract. As it stands, if he doesn't play this year, can't imagine that they would be picking up the 5th-year option on a quarterback who hasn't played much. But if the circumstances change, Richardson could find a way to play himself into that. And if not, then he would have the opportunity to go somewhere else to try to become the latest version of those quarterbacks that you mentioned, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, but the best thing that Anthony Richardson can do right now is to continue to compete. I understand that Daniel Jones has been named the starter. I understand that Shane Steichen said he doesn't plan on making any changes. But Daniel Jones' play could have a change be necessary. So Anthony Richardson, from a mental standpoint, needs to continue to get the mental reps. I understand people say that you have to let him play because he's young. Well, get those reps in practice, even if it's on scout team. Stay mentally ready and don't see this situation as a defeat, because his opportunity could come a lot sooner than expected. So he needs to be ready when that other opportunity comes again.
Stephen Holder covers the Colts for us. You've been all over this all offseason. Heck, at the Combine, we were talking about GM Chris Ballard kind of foreshadowing this, leaning into the word competition. What ultimately led to this being the way forward, and what are the implications for both of these quarterbacks?
Phil, you're right. That word competition has defined the offseason for the Colts. When the subject of quarterback comes up, they needed more out of Anthony Richardson. They thought competition would perhaps bring that out of him. And they had a very spirited competition. Ultimately, for Shane Steichen, it's a lot of the things he just outlined in that clip, which is some of the stuff that we can't see. It's not the big arm or the athleticism that we see from Anthony Richardson. It's also the management of the huddle and the small things at the line of scrimmage that maybe are intricacies to us, but very pivotal to the outcome of each and every play. So for the two players here, I think this is going to be something of a defining moment. You have Daniel Jones, who now, this is the culmination for him of a great decision, in fact. Back in March, he bet on himself to come here on a 1-year deal and win this job. He has won it. And for Anthony Richardson, this leaves numerous questions. He was asked to compete. He did that. He went toe-to-toe with Daniel Jones. He lost this battle and perhaps will not play this season. That's a daunting thing to accept for a 23-year-old, one-time franchise quarterback, or thought to be a franchise quarterback.
And now all eyes in Indy can shift to that Week 1 opener against the Dolphins. Colts will breathe a lot easier if Daniel Jones is cleaner out of the gates. In his career in season openers, he's just 1-4, losing the last 2 by a combined 68-6. Stephen, thank you. Supporting the case for Jones over Richardson. I mean, it's been a tough go for the 23-year-old among QBs with at least 15 starts. His passer rating and completion percentage both ranked dead last since he was drafted. His completion percentage actually the worst of any QBs with 15 starts this millennium. And his touchdown to interception ratio ahead of only Daniel Jones in the last 2 years. How about that? Mike Tannenbaum back with us, grading the approach the Colts took to all of this. Mike, did Indy do enough to give Richardson a real shot at succeeding?
I think so. You know, when you look at their skill players, first of all, Alex Pierce led the NFL in yards per catch as a receiver. They have Michael Pittman, a big physical receiver, and obviously, Phil, a great running back in Jonathan Taylor. Look, was the offensive line perfect? No. Was the tight end situation perfect? No. But no situation is perfect, right? We saw Patrick Mahomes deal with a left guard, left tackle. The key to me was knowing that he was inexperienced. Let's pick a lane and say, hey, we are going to go until glass breaks. He is our starter. We know it was only 13 games in college, which is way less than most quarterbacks. And let's just try to get him a little bit better as we go on. So I think there was enough of supporting cast, but I think it was a lack of patience ultimately that did in Anthony Richardson.
More QB1 news out of Cleveland. The Browns announced yesterday Joe Flacco is going to start their opener. The 40-year-old Flacco was widely expected to win this job over Kenny Pickett and rookies Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, who have all dealt with injuries in camp. Coach Kevin Stefanski addressed this news today.
Yeah, he earned it, and I understand with the injuries, how that may look, that's really not the case here. Joe performed really well. What he's able to bring to the football team, he's earned that role. I do think the guys believe in Joe, but I want to give credit to that entire group. I think those guys are working very, very hard. We have a standard for that position, regardless of who's in there. Practice, games, how we operate, what we believe in. We have a very, very high standard.
Our Browns reporter Daniel Oyefusi joins us from Browns camp in Berea, Ohio. Daniel, what does naming a QB1 and it being Joe Flacco do for this QB room at large?
Well, Phil, it means that there's clarity at the top of the depth chart for the Browns, but everything behind Flacco is still very much up in the air. Today, Coach Kevin Stefanski declined to name a backup to Flacco, and when I asked him if maybe there's an ongoing competition for that spot, he said that all these roles are not given out, they're earned. Now, keep in mind, last month, GM Andrew Berry said that it's very possible that they keep all 4 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, and as we head into the final week of the preseason, it's important to note that Kenny Pickett returned to 11-on-11 drills today for the first time since injuring his hamstring. And Stefanski said he's very much still excited about Pickett.
And Daniel, this is a team that when Flacco was starter 2 years ago, they went 4-1 in those games, ultimately going 11-6, and 11 wins ties the franchise high going all the way back to 1986. Daniel, thank you so much. So Sam Acho, you sign one QB in free agency, you trade for another, you draft 2 more, and then ultimately go with the elder statesman of the bunch by, 10 years plus. Does the Flacco decision make sense to you?
It does, but I don't think this competition is over. I understand that Joe Flacco can run the offense very well, but here's the issue. If this Cleveland Brown team gets down in a game and it's obvious past situations, you may see what happened in the 2023 playoffs when they played the Texans, when all of a sudden they're down by a couple scores, Joe Flacco takes a couple sacks, and now he's trying to get the ball out quickly. What's going to happen is if pass rushers, like when they played the Baltimore Ravens or other teams earlier in the season, get a chance to get to the quarterback and they can't move the ball as effectively because they're down in a game, Cleveland may look to go to a more mobile quarterback, and that could be both Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. So I understand that Joe Flacco has been named the starter, but I believe that this competition is far from over.
Well, it's not any surprise about who's starting in Cleveland. I think the real quarterback drama in Cleveland is who's going to be the backup quarterback in Cleveland. Everybody always expected that Joe Flacco would be the starting quarterback from the moment he signed with the Cleveland Browns back in April. And we can just prove that by pointing to the fact that Joe Flacco didn't play it down in a preseason game this summer, and he still was named the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. And yet, the real interesting part of this is, what did the Browns do at the backup quarterback position? Do they go with Dylan Gabriel? Do they go with Shedeur Sanders? On their current depth chart, for whatever that's worth, and maybe they haven't changed it at all this summer, they have Joe Flacco listed as the starter. They have Kenny Pickett listed as second string. They have Dylan Gabriel listed as third string. And they have Shedeur Sanders listed as fourth string. Let's see what happens in the final preseason game, where I'm sure they'll give an opportunity to Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders to get a better idea of who might be higher on the depth chart come the start of the regular season.
Mike, you heard Adam's analysis. There's intrigue and potential promise elsewhere in this depth chart. Kevin Stefanski won't name QB2. I'm going to ask you to name QB2. How should the Browns approach this?
I would give each player a half. Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, let them go compete this weekend. They both look good, but they both were hurt. So it's been an odd situation because Joe Flacco, as Adam alluded to, didn't play it down, but he was the only one of the 4 quarterbacks that wasn't hurt. I was actually really encouraged by both Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders when they were out there against the Panthers and the Eagles. Look, Dylan Gabriel had the 2 turnovers in fairness here, but I thought they were both encouraging. Let them go and compete, and let them compete every week. That's how you're going to get the best out of both of them.
Yeah, Sanders was cleaner, but Gabriel had more yards per attempt, 7.9 for him as opposed to 6 even for Sanders. But yeah, Jaxson Dart's been impressive through 2 preseason showings, 74% completions, the best amongst rookies and third best amongst any player with 30 attempts. He's averaged 145 pass yards per game, over 8 yards per attempt, also thrown for 2 touchdowns, both of which were more than 10 yards downfield, and he also ran for 1. Jordan Renan covers the Giants for us, and Jordan, this is a team that kept GM and head coach after a franchise record 14 losses. How is New York balancing chasing success this season while developing Dart for future seasons?
Yeah, how you doing, Phil? I don't know Mike is going to like this very much, but the Giants have been adamant since the start of training, and really since they signed Russell Wilson, that he's going to be their starter. Even when they drafted Jaxson Dart, that didn't change. Even when they started training camp, that didn't change as well. I even asked Brian Dable the other day, I said, you know, could Jaxson Dart work? Is there anything Jaxson Dart could do to work his way into the starting mix? And he said, Russell Wilson is our starter. We're going to continue to develop Jaxson Dart. Now, I spoke to quarterbacks coach Shea Tierney earlier today. I said, what has impressed him the most about Dart? Why has he gotten better throughout the summer? And he noted his ability to retain and take in information. He thought that was perhaps the most impressive thing about Dart so far. It has made him more comfortable in the offense. You see him getting the ball out quicker. So that is a big difference. You think you've seen a big difference between Dart when he first stepped in at the beginning of the summer and the way he's playing now, and it's obviously translated to the preseason. Now, whether it's Jaxson Dart or Russell Wilson, this is big for both of them. Malik Neighbors, their star wide receiver, was back on the field today. He's missed the last 12 days with a back injury, so he was back. Also, left tackle Andrew Thomas, who started the summer on the PUP list, had a Liz Frank surgery late last year. He also was back practicing. Both those guys now look like they could be on track for week 1.
Always welcoming more pieces in the offense. This is a team that was the first to add multiple QBs with more than 150 career passing touchdowns in one offseason. And certainly Jordan the first to do that, and then trade into the first round to draft another QB. Mike Tannenbaum, who has already been alluded to, Sam Acho back with us. Sam, start with you. If you're Brian Dable or help GM Joe Schoen, how quickly would you be trying to get Dart to the top of that depth chart?
Not quickly at all. I would be very patient with Jaxson Dart. Why? He looked pretty good in the preseason. There were a couple overthrows in his last game, but that's the preseason. The speed of the game changes from the preseason to the regular season, and types of looks that you get change from the preseason to the regular season. The players who you face change from the preseason to the regular season. You have Russell Wilson, who's 9-time Pro Bowler, going into year 14, who's experienced and who looks good as well. Let Russell Wilson be your starter. Allow Jaxson Dart to continue to develop this season, and so you can have him for the long run, not to rush him out, and he can make some mistakes in the regular season.
Nope, and nope. This is easy, Sam. As soon as he was drafted in Green Bay, Wisconsin, give him the playbook, never look back. We had the same situation in the same city. Mark Sanchez, 09, day 1 starter, rookie quarterback. We get to the AFC Championship game. Jaxson Dart is a better player, and he's a better athlete than Russell Wilson. Look, I understand there's going to be growing pains, but he is somebody that has energized this franchise. He understands what to do, and when you talk to the Giant organization, they're actually more thrilled what he's doing off the field than on the field. Russell Wilson, to me, is an athletically diminished player. He was sacked at a rate 31% above the league average. So is it going to be perfect from day 1, Sam? Absolutely not. He will make mistakes. But a young, ascending Jaxson Dart is what the New York Giant franchise needs, because that'll make him better in November and December. Russell Wilson, who's had a good career, is clearly closer to the end.
Yeah, I go back to Patrick Mahomes, his rookie season, sitting behind Alex Smith and getting a chance to watch and learn from a consummate pro. What is Russell Wilson, a consummate pro? What is Jaxson Dart, a first-round pick who people are excited about? Why not give Jaxson Dart an opportunity to sit and watch and learn from a consummate pro, to understand the speed of the game, how to prepare for a regular season game, not just a preseason game? Why not give him that luxury, which you actually have, of a starting quarterback who's been there, who's done that, who's won a Super Bowl, so he can learn how to do it. And then when his time comes, maybe it is sometimes during the season, maybe it's not, you give him all that opportunity to be able to have a long-standing career, not a flash in the pan, a 1-year or 2-year wonder like you've seen in years past with some examples that you shared earlier.